Hey guys. So I want to talk to you today. I was thinking about my dad has always told me that you don't know what you don't know. So it's basically just the idea that like arrogance is you think you know more than you actually do because you're just completely unaware of how much information there is out there. But something that I've been thinking about is you don't know what you do know. And I feel like that applies to a lot of people's lives, maybe less so than the first saying, but what I mean by that is in private, you do a lot of things and you learn a lot of things, like whenever, that isn't shown until you have something to compare it to. So, comparison or measurement has to be in relation to something. Like, I wouldn't know that 7 feet tall is considered super tall unless I compared it to the average human height, if that makes sense. And so you wouldn't necessarily know whether you're good or bad at something unless you have the average or any other metric to compare it to. And so you don't know what you do know in saying that if I spend hours a day and I read 2 books a week and I read 100 books in a year, and then 5 years later, suddenly I'm in a room with a bunch of successful people and I'm the most successful one in the room and I understand all these things and I seem like I know a lot and I've done a lot. You don't realize at that moment that the reason for all of that is because of those books that you read a while ago. And in that moment, when you were reading or learning, whatever it may be, you don't know what you know because you haven't had the opportunity to apply it yet. And I feel like this has been very prevalent in my life because I feel like I've been living Groundhog Day for the last 2 years because I basically just wake up and go to the gym and go to class and like a couple other things, and that's pretty much it every single day. And it seems like nothing's changed and nothing's happened, but really I've never had an opportunity where any of that came like needed to be applied. And so I didn't realize how much I did know until like I was in a group of people and we were all chatting and I realized just how much I had learned because I didn't have anything to compare it to because it was in private. Until then it was in public and I had a measure to compare it to and I realized just how much I had learned. And so you may or may not be at a period of your life where it feels like you're not going anywhere, but I'd be willing to bet that the reason why it feels like you're not going anywhere is because you just don't have anything to compare where you're at right now to where you were. And so it seems like you're not going anywhere because there's nothing to compare it to. And if there's nothing to compare it to, being 7 feet tall is just being 7 feet tall. Like it doesn't have any meaning unless you have something to compare it to. And so whatever you're doing with your day might seem meaningless because there's nothing else to compare it to. But the reality is that eventually the day will come where you do have something to compare it to. And then you will realize that he either was all worth it or wasn't. But you'll finally understand how much you've learned, to what extent. And I think that's the thing that people don't really consider much is like you don't realize how much you know unless you have something to compare it to. And most people never are put in the situation to do that. So yeah, just a thought, but I will go ahead and talk to you guys tomorrow. I have family coming into town this weekend, so it'll be fun. It'll be grounding. It'll be really nice. But yeah, I will talk to you guys tomorrow.